All right, so today we're diving headfirst into the world of Infosys. We're talking about their latest financial reports, trying to really dissect what's going on behind the scenes at this tech giant. By the time we're done here, you'll be able to drop some serious Infosys knowledge in your next conversation.
These reports, they're more than just numbers. They really give us a glimpse into the company's overall strategy, how they're rolling with the punches in this constantly shifting tech world.
So no time to waste. Let's get right into it. Infosys just dropped their Q2 report for 2024, and to sum it up, they're not just keeping their heads above water, they're thriving. Revenue is up, earnings are looking pretty good, and that big bet they placed on digital services seems to be paying off big time.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking a cool $4,894 million in revenue this quarter. And sure, a 3.7% jump year over year, it might not sound like much. But for a company the size of Infosys, that kind of steady growth, that's huge. It really shows they're not just attracting new clients, but keeping those existing relationships strong.
Okay, so they're doing something right, clearly, but it can't all be about what is it, the top line. We got to talk about operating margin, how much profit they're actually making on each dollar of revenue. And that's where things get a little more, shall we say, interesting.
Now, this dip in operating margin, that definitely deserves a closer look. Flat, quarter over quarter, even dipped a bit year over year. But hold on, before anyone hits the panic button, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Wait, are you saying a dip in profit could actually be, well, good?
Sometimes, yeah. Think
Yeah.
about it like this. Infosys is investing and investing heavily. Take their recent acquisition in tech holding GmbH. That move right there. That's them saying we're all in on engineering and R&D. And sure, these investments might mean taking a bit of a hit on profits in the short term, but they could be laying the groundwork for massive gains down the line.
So they're sacrificing, what, a pawn to gain a queen in this old chess game of business?
Exactly. Now, one thing that really jumped out of them, their free cash flow, FCF, up 25.2% year over year, reaching a hefty $839 million.
Okay, hold on. Let's hit pause for a second for the folks who might not be fluent in, finance speak. What exactly does that mean, and why should we care?
So, in the simplest terms, free cash flow, it's the cash a company has left over after covering all the operating costs, all the essential investments. It's the money they have to play with. Reinvest, pay dividends to shareholders, maybe buy back some of their own stock.
So a healthy FCF, that means a company has options. Kind of like having a nice little emergency fund, right? A financial safety net.
Exactly. And let me tell you, Infosys is sitting on a pretty substantial safety net right now. Gives them a lot of flexibility, a lot of options for the future. One of the strongest indicators of their overall financial health.
Okay, so we know Infosys has a nice little pile of cash,
Mhm.
but where's all that revenue coming from? Is it just one region carrying the team, or are we talking a true global powerhouse?
That's a great question. And thankfully, this report actually gives us a pretty detailed breakdown. North America, no surprises here, still their biggest market. We're talking $2,807 million in Q2 alone.
Whoa, hold on. So that's what, more than half their total revenue just from North America?
You got it. But, and this is key, Europe is really starting to heat up. They brought in $1,458 million from that region, a clear sign they're expanding their reach.
Smart move. Right.
Yeah.
Diversifying, especially with all the whispers about a potential U.S. economic slowdown.
Yeah.
Can't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say.
Couldn't agree more. Spreading out, geographically classic way to minimize risk. But it's more than just spreading out, right? It's about strategic positioning, thinking long-term growth. And that's where this whole Intech acquisition really gets interesting.
Okay, yes. Let's talk about Intech. Sounds like a major push into the engineering and R&D world. What's the strategy there, big picture?
Well, think about it. Intech, they're a major player in Germany. In Germany,
Right, right,
engineering powerhouse, right? So this acquisition, it's not just about the company itself. It's about getting a solid foothold in a critical market, expanding their capabilities in a sector that's just booming right now.
So it's like they're buying the expertise, the innovation, the access, all in one shot.
Exactly. And it loops right back to what we were talking about earlier, that whole digital transformation strategy. They're going all in on the future of engineering and R&D, this acquisition. This is them putting their money where their mouth is.
It's like they're saying, look, we're not just along for the ride, we're grabbing the wheel.
I like that. But, and there's always a but, no business strategy is completely foolproof, right? There are always risks.
And speaking of risks, we have to address the elephant in the room, this cybersecurity incident with McCamish, their subsidiary. What happened there? And how worried should we be?
Yeah, unfortunately, these kinds of incidents, they're becoming more and more common. It's the digital world we live in. With McCamish, it seems like there was some unauthorized access, potentially some compromised data. Details are still a little fuzzy, but something they'll need to tackle head on, that's for sure.
No kidding. Cybersecurity breaches, they can be devastating. Financially, reputationally,
Yeah.
the works. So how does this whole thing impact our assessment of Infosys overall?
Well, it's definitely a concern, no way around that, but it's important to keep things in perspective. These things happen. Even the most secure companies, they can still be vulnerable. It's all about the response. And from what we're seeing in the report, Infosys is taking it seriously.
So transparency is key here.
Absolutely. Acknowledge the issue. Communicate openly. And for goodness sake, take steps to prevent it from happening again.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've seen the growth, the strategy, even a little bump in the road with that cybersecurity issue. But what's the big takeaway? That's where you come in. What's your expert take? Can Infosys keep this momentum going?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The tech world, it's not for the faint of heart. You can't just coast and expect to stay ahead of the game.
So it's adapt or die, basically.
Pretty much. And, Infosys seems to get that. They're putting their resources in the right places. Digital, cloud services, and those bold moves, like that in-tech acquisition. Smart. But there are always challenges, right?
Like what?
Hmm.
What should investors be watching out for? What are the potential red flags in the next few quarters?
Well, competition, obviously. You've got other giants gunning for that top spot. And then you've got the up-and-comers, the startups, the disruptors. Not to mention the whole global economic picture, inflation, recession fears, even, geopolitical risks.
Okay, so some potential storms brewing. But does Infosys have what it takes to weather them?
Well, if we're going by the financials, they've got a pretty solid foundation. Cash flow is healthy. That gives them the resources to invest, to be agile. But honestly, it goes beyond the numbers. It's the people, the culture. Can they attract top talent? And keep them around. Can they cultivate that environment of, innovation, agility?
It's interesting you mentioned that. This report, it doesn't really dive into the whole company culture thing. Any clues in their financials about how they're doing on that front?
It's not always spelled out, but yeah, there are hints. Look at their investment in, say, employee training, development programs. That's a good sign. Companies that put their people first, they tend to be the ones that can roll with the punches long term.
So it's not just about the bottom line. It's about, well, building a company that people actually want to be a part of.
Exactly. And that's something anyone should be thinking about, not just with Infosys. Any company in any industry in this day and age.
That's a fantastic point to end on. We've gone from balance sheets to the big picture. And I think it's safe to say our listeners have a much clearer understanding of Infosys, where they stand now and where they might be headed.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
And a huge thank you to everyone listening. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, keep learning, keep asking questions, and we'll see you on the next one.